right, this is what we're doing. It's Chuck Nix, the Bearded Wino. I'm at one of my favorite retail shops here in the Jackson area. What we like to do is we like to come in and pick out the wines. And sometimes when we're pairing food, you know, there's rules to it, right? Whether we pick out the wines and we put the food with the wine or vice versa. When I work with Chef JB, we get really creative and we kind of throw away all the rules. But we both like to do is pick out some of our favorite things. I'm sure he's doing some awesome food items. And I'm going to pick out some really cool wines. We're going to put the pieces together to create some really great synergy. So right here at Briarwood Wine and Spirits, I come in here and they've got an awesome selection. It's incredibly diverse, going from domestics to international wines, sparkling in different styles. I like to go through and think about what that general idea of a meal is going to look like. If we're going to start with lighter dishes, sort of appetizers, charcuterie, salads, I'll go through some lighter wines, sparkling, and so forth and so on. On this aisle right here, I find some really, really rich items, some red blends, heavy reds, Cabernets out of California in the United States. And I just go through and I find some really cool things. This is one of my favorite aisles. It's also an aisle that most people come to, so it's a popular one. So we're gonna walk through. I'm gonna grab a couple of bottles. We'll just talk about what we're doing here. This winemaker out of Napa Valley, Cockrell, you know, French winemaker, but they use a lot of traditional techniques. Christine's an amazing winemaker. Plus, this team has a really good relationship with us here in the state of Mississippi. We really like to put these wines on tables. I feature these wines a lot on meals, and a lot of their big heavy reds in a Bordeaux style, we'll put with those heavy dishes. So you start talking about red meats. We like to say cab in a slab. Cockrell does really, really good with those Bordeaux varietals like Cabernet Sauvignon, or even some of their red blends. This is one of their estate versions or their reserve wines. We don't know if we're gonna put this on the next meal, but I certainly would love to see this on the table, and I'd love for you to join me when we do. Keenan does some really cool wines. These are Merlots. You'll often find that a lot of Cabernets or red wines out of California, they are gonna be Cabernet based, but you'll find that there's a lot of Merlot dominance or a lot of Merlot influence in those wines. If I'm gonna pick out a wine that's red wine, a heavy red out of California, I know I'm gonna have some Merlot there. I'm really looking at some of those richer foods, but any sort of food that has some like red fruit or red berry notes in it. So if you got like a cherry glaze, or if you got anything with sort of a blackberry glaze, those kind of things work really, really well with red wines out of California or blends of the sort. Zinfandel is also a big popular wine with a lot of the red meats that we pick out here. And especially the way that we eat here in Mississippi. We do foods with a lot of spice. So you're finding foods with a lot of spice, you're gonna wanna find something that kind of goes with it. Another thing about California and domestic wines is there's a lot of new oak aging. Some of that new oak is gonna have some influence of spice, oak, cedar, and some vanilla sometimes. Those characteristics go really, really well with some of those spicy dishes or foods that have some seasoning to them. Always really, really fun. And the heavy alcohol content in some of these wines always goes great. Everybody likes to actually feel their wine, right? Let's go. So people don't talk about it all the time, but one of the number one wines that people are ordering is going to be Chardonnay. Chardonnay is ordered so widely, and I hear a lot of people say, I don't like Chardonnay. But Chardonnay is widely, is very diverse and very versatile. So if you're going to talk about Chardonnay, number one place for Chardonnay is arguably Burgundy. We'll talk about that when we talk about international wines in just a second. But out of California also, Chardonnay goes really, really well, or they make it very well. Again, using a lot of oak influence, you'll find Chardonnay to go really, really great with chicken, buttery, creamy sauces. And I know for the way that a lot of us eat here, we gotta have the sauce with the food. Nobody wants dry chicken, right? So we're gonna make sure we got a good creamy sauce to go with that chicken. Get you some Chardonnay. You'll thank me for that one, huh? Laird is one of these winemakers, they're legacy winemakers out of California. They've been making wine for a considerable amount of time, and this is one of their Sauvignon Blancs. You're talking about salad, you're talking about some green vegetables, asparagus. It is cold outside, so we're getting into Brussels sprouts and asparagus on plates. Sauvignon Blanc is the way you want to go, because some of the green notes in those foods goes really good with some of the vegetal notes in the wine. I'm going to show you one of my favorite sections real quick. If you ever find me here, you're probably gonna find me in the back of the store here, not just because I'm trying to get out the back door and I know where the goods are, but I'm telling you, this is where the bubbles are. So if you're finding the sparkling wines, this is where we're starting our meals. This is also where we're just kind of opening up the evening. So if you're starting off the night, no matter what's gonna be the first course, the sparkling wine is really where you're gonna wanna live. I'm gonna tell you something about this. Champagne is easily the most popular sparkling wine that you're gonna see. Next to that, you're gonna talk about Prosecco all the time. But if we're talking about sparkling wine, so we don't have to break the bank, let's talk about Cremant. Cremant is a sparkling wine made in France, just not necessarily in the Champagne region. You'll spend a little bit less. You're also going to get similar quality, but you're also going to get a character and a sense of terroir that is second to none. You're going to find many Cremants all over France. My favorite Cremant also comes from Alsace, but I got to tell you, this Cremant de Bordeaux from Ballerin is a real game changer. It's a crowd pleaser, and what it does is it's going to be using some obscure grapes, not necessarily Chardonnay like a lot of other sparkling wines, but you're going to be using some Savagnin. You're going to use some other Bordeaux grapes, Sauvignon Blanc. High acid, tart, really, really bright, lifted acidity, really, really awesome, and opens up the palate for more food. If you like a sweeter sparkling wine, look at some of the Bel Air brands because they do get a little bit sweeter, but also check the labeling, because once you go from brut into, say, like extra dry or demi-sec, you start talking about sweeter sparkling wines, and those go really, really well, even with desserts. So the sparkling wine section here is quite diverse, from Champagne to Cremant to Prosecco, Cava, which is going to be sparkling wine just in Spain. There's some Cap Classiques, a South African sparkling wine, also one of my favorite sparklers to drink. I love this section. I hang out back here. And usually when I'm pairing wines, I get stuck back here and somebody has to text me or tell me, hey, we got to get the rest of the wine together. There's even some really good Greek sparklers back here, some really fun stuff back here. Now, Briarwood isn't just about wine. There are spirits here. If you're into tequila, they got those. I'm into tequila. And about at the end of the dinner, I'm usually into the spirits. But before I get there, I got to tell you about this. This is the absolute best section for me. This is the international section. Now, we're going from Italy to Germany to Spain, South Africa. You're going to get really, really versatile and really diverse with the kinds of wines that you find here in different styles. This time of year when it's cooler and we're doing things like short rib and brisket and all sorts of things that have some braising going to the process of the food, the texture of the meat changes and there's a richness that comes out of that meat, especially with the sauces that are there. When I get sauces that are super rich, or I get foods that have a different method to bringing out more flavors, I want to get wines that are going to bring those flavors out that also have some richness to them. Appassimento is a method that is used in Italy where you're using dried grapes to make the wine. When you use dried grapes, you're using concentrated sugars and flavors in those particular grapes that are going to result in some higher alcohol wines, but also some very, very rich, flavorful wines. Passimento method wines that come out of Italy, or Passito method wines, or Ripasso even. I really love those styles of wines that are coming out of Italy, and I picked those in this section, and that's where I come from. This Ripasso Illuminati, outstanding wine and incredible value. This wine only brings in at $22 in value here at Briarwood. You'll also find that there's some incredible values, and there's also going to be some of those, gift bottles. If you want to spend some money and make sure that you're really lighting up that gift bag, they've got that opportunity for you here too at Briarwood. But the Italian section, I find some really cool wines, especially for meats in this season. If I'm just shopping in here and I'm looking around Briarwood, I can get lost, but I also have, as their retail partner with us, there are some really, really educated staff here. Leslie and Nathan, who own the store, are really, really sharp. And if they're ever here, just ask them the question that you have and they can point you in the right direction much faster than even Google can a lot of times, because they know their inventory better than most. So if you're ever here, check with the people here. They'll help you point in the right direction. Pop in, do some browsing of your own, look around Briarwood and find something really cool. Or if you don't want to do that, just hit me up, beardedwino.com, or on Instagram at beardedwino. I'll help you out with a little bit of things. So I'm here at Briarwood. I'm going to do some shopping. I got to get ready for the next Dirty Napkin Supper Club. Chef JB's working. I'm going to get to work too. Thanks for popping up for me, man. Peace.